Welcome to Stusays episode 8, reviewing episode 8 of Picard. I must say I was quite impressed with this episode. It definitely had all the hallmarks of an excellent episode in terms of the interactions with Seven of Nine in the Borg cube, just where you want to see Seven, becoming a pseudo Borg queen or a mini Borg queen was a very impressive and awe-inspiring bit of television. I quite enjoyed that, even if it was kind of, even if it didn't last very long. Though you must imagine that if you're going to have a Borg cube or be in charge of a Borg cube and not be a Borg, then the first thing you're going to do is make absolutely sure there's a big red button you can press that says "Kill all remaining Borg." However, it's unclear how spacing the Borg would really have killed them. It would have gotten them off the cube, but it wouldn't have killed them because in Star Trek First Contact, there are Borg that are happily wandering around outside, and as the Borg are biomechanical, it wouldn't be kind of massively a jump for them to all be space breathing drones as well, so or there'd be at least a quantity of drones that could breathe in space because their lungs would have been replaced, or they're not got lungs anymore, or whatever the requirement. But in essence, it was something to kind of nip that in the bud, because that might have been a little bit too exciting. Would have been Seven of Nine running around as a Borg queen, kind of improving the backwater parts of the Federation space that Starfleet aren't patrolling, like a friendly Borg cube that goes along and assimilates only criminals. So, but that could be a completely different spin-off. But yeah, I really quite enjoyed it, and also the action sequences with the ninja. Again, name can't remember. He's not quite worthy yet for me to remember his name, but the only thing I found a bit odd was it would make sense for Seven of Nine to know about Hugh, and for Hugh to have Seven of Nine's transponder, or was that the transponder that Picard was given by Seven of Nine earlier in the season? It doesn't make a huge amount of sense. There's also the travel aspect. The Borg cube seems to be deep into Romulan space, although I do believe the kind of the frontier might be close-ish. But definitely, Seven of Nine had no problems getting past the Romulan border and to the Borg cube just in the nick of time. The graphics I thought also were excellent. In general, I would say I'm very impressed with the fact that they have moved from flat screens and tapping plastic keyboards to kind of holographic 3D displays. If they've got holograms, it would make perfect sense that you'd have holographic displays before you'd have fully functioning holograms. So I do like that. I'm in two minds about when they go to warp, when Rios goes to warp in the ship. It just seems a little bit doesn't have the same gravitas as going to warp. Any fans of Red Dwarf, the episode that involves the evil androids, where the crew of Starbug are kind of having to work their way to kind of actually get Starbug to work. They're all kind of like banging stuff and pushing stuff, and that kind of going to warp requires that kind of dramatic interaction with the ship. And Hyperdrive, actually another sci-fi show that BBC had, the guy Simon Clegg's pal Nick Frost, I think he played the captain in it. They had a kind of cyborg woman, and she activated the kind of hyperdrive, and how she did it was she was inside this kind of apparatus, and she had to kind of do a full kind of like both hands kind of from the back to the front leap to go to warp. And that's the kind of thing I want to see. If you're going to have an interactive environment where you can jump to warp, you want to be a little bit more than just press a button. You want a bit more kind of like meaty, like a big joystick, like in Star Trek Insurrection, something meatier, like a big pedal on the floor. You can just go push. did watch the episode last night, so it's relatively fresh in my memory. I did thoroughly enjoy a kind of very Picard moment when he was talking to the doctor who had just waken up from her kind of like short, brief coma. And that was kind of like more Captain Picard in a very authoritarian position, being very authoritative and kind of laying down the kind of law. And that's what I want to see kind of like more of, rather than this. This is what the previous episode kind of had, as this kind of like bumbling character who's not quite sure what's going on, but has kind of got an idea. I thought Raffi kind of actually, because this is a nice parallel between Next Generation and Picard. Next Generation, I found the android, we're on the ship, now we're going to go save the android planet. I trust this person implicitly, blah, 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 blah. In the Next Generation, that would have been pure. That would have been the response, similar to the Admiral encounter way back in episode 2. But no, Raffi's like, who the hell is this? And by the way, the last person you brought on was a double agent. So how sure are you this? How sure are you? Where is your steadfastness when it comes to these things? And Picard's like, kind of. She's Data's daughter. Oh, Soji. So there weren't any real moments of doubt in the Next Generation. In the episode Chain of Command, where Picard's actually being tortured, we're still not even seeing anything close to kind of that level of doubt. And he's being tortured by a Cardassian with the four lights. But he still had a steadfastness about him and a sureness about him, and that's what he's missing in Picard, and that's what I think the character is missing. As a character development, it's definitely an evolution to make our heroes more flawed, but I really like Next Generation because the flaws were kind of absolutely minimal. None of the crew were alcoholics or drug takers or had massive trauma. Even Geordi, who got brainwashed by the Romulans, bounced back the next episode without any real lingering problems. And Picard, as a Borg, he had one episode where he had a bit of a kind of tantrum and a bit of PTSD, but then he was back to being Picard again. And that's what I think I miss, that kind of television. And I do wonder if we're now beyond that kind of television, that kind of show cannot exist anymore. It's too simple for tastes. Or potentially I've gotten so old now that I can't enjoy shows that have multifaceted layers and stuff. I just want something simple, a bit like a Big Mac meal. What I don't quite get in terms of the major kind of question, if we jump to the kind of discussion where Picard was chatting to the Admiral to get a hold of a squadron to go and save this synth homeworld. I did quite enjoy that meeting where the tables had been turned. Picard was, I'm right, you should listen to me. And then the Admiral was like, Picard, just shut the fuck up. Yes, you're right, we're going to send you. So that was quite a nice moment, I thought, quite like Picard. Sometimes you do go on a bit of a speech. Not often, but sometimes you go into a bit of a speech, a righteousness. So just shut the fuck up, and we're going to go help you. Fine. But then towards the end of the episode, it's like, actually, we're not even going to bother waiting at Deep Space 12 for the fleet. We're just going to go there ourselves because the android girl is like, yeah, I need to go there myself because the Romulans are sending a fleet who somehow didn't quite know where the place was. So this kind of like side character that we don't hear about in the previous episode, that the Riker and Troy's daughter was chatting to this captain, somehow he knew exactly where it was, and that gave them the head start, whereas the Romulans had the general information and they were trawling through databases waiting to try and find a match for it. And so in essence the race is on, but in my mind the Romulans should have sent their fleet last episode because it should have been relatively straightforward to find this place. But I suppose it's more dramatic to have two fleets kind of racing, although technically it's one ship and the Romulan fleet, so I'm not sure what's going on with there. Transwarp conduit graphics were very nice for it. I can't fault the graphics, even in episode 1 where they had Brett Spiner back in full makeup. Again, I couldn't fault the graphics that they produced, and as I would say the same with Discovery, the graphics were again excellent, so no dodgy CGI here. But the idea of kind of like, oh, we'll go by ourselves, we've got a fleet of Romulans just against us, but we're going to go by ourselves to what? A planet of pacifist androids, possibly? Yeah. Seems a little bit. Should wait for the fleet. Or at least communicate to the fleet where you're going. But that might be the case. That might be the crescendo in episode 10 where they're surrounded on all sides by Romulan ships and then the Starfleet's fleet arrives in the nick of time, blah, 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 blah. Again, it makes for drama. It was very interesting to see that the villain, in terms of the reason why the Tal Shiar, this secret order of Romulans, is protecting the world or the universe or the galaxy, is not because the sentient life, artificial life rises up and becomes sentient and then attacks everyone else, similar to Discovery, where the artificial intelligence in charge of Starfleet becomes a bit more self-aware and then starts trying to kill everyone. But there's another villain. There's a race that we've not seen yet, who are behind the scenes, who at some point of threshold, and again, anyone who's watched Star Trek First Contact and watched the series will indicate that when Zephyr Cochrane invented the warp drive, that actually attracted the Vulcans to Earth, and the Vulcans were the ones who kind of helped humanity onto the path of becoming more where they are in the next generation, a more enlightened kind of like race with technology and warp drive and better warp drive. They already had warp drive there, but that warp pulse is what the sensors picked up on the Vulcan ship, and that's what drew them to the place, to Earth. But there's something that happens with sentient machines that generate some kind of pulse or some kind of signal, and this big bad evil monster or race will appear and bring hell. It wasn't quite clear in terms of what they were going to do. You'd kind of assume some kind of purge, potentially purging everything, which does have kind of hints of Mass Effect series, but I won't spoil that too much. But it was interesting that a race so advanced that they could pluck 8 different suns, and again, you'd imagine the suns would be pretty much, you couldn't just pick any 8 suns, you had to kind of find the right suns for whatever astrological map you had for this octarian system. You had to pluck 8 different suns from all over the kind of galaxy to then put together to then have this beacon that you then put a planet right in the center, and right in the center of the planet you put this big warning sign, which is, hey, don't do what we did. It's some real nasty stuff happens if you do this. Now, surely there's the Argos Deep Space Array, there's satellite arrays, there's telescopes everywhere. Surely someone would have picked out an 8-star system at some point. The Romulans don't have a monopoly on stars, and it is probably in Romulan space. And again, surely there would be a lot of telescopes pointed at Romulan space. So how do you hide 8 suns? Seems a little bit odd. So you'd think that they would know exactly where this place was, and it would be like, oh, it would raise some more questions earlier, but for the sake of drama, fine. I did find the opening scene a bit vicious, very similar to the opening with 709's little Borg buddy. Can't remember his name now, forgotten it again. a bit visceral, people kind of like killing themselves directly with blunt instruments and objects and stuff, just to kind of like prove a point on how horrific it is. And that leads me on to the kind of like, because the Borg cube assimilated a Romulan who had this knowledge, who was functionally insane. That is somebody who was insane but was still functioning in society. And the despair of that one individual somehow cut off the whole cube from the collective because they couldn't quite hack it. I can imagine the Borg having a firewall type system that would involve auto cutoff of the collective if they found something significantly bad. Similar to the pathogen that Voyager kind of like found in the Borg children that affected the Borg cube, and one of the Borg cubes in the Delta Quadrant. But in terms of the book series, the Borg are pretty much kind of harmless at the moment, because the Queen's been destroyed and the pathogens hit the kind of nest, and there's still plenty of them out there, they're just not quite functional or as a collective. Just saying, what else? So I really quite enjoyed this episode for episode 8. I'm glad they saved the budget, the Queen Chamber stuff, and seeing 7 of 9 become a kind of like mini Queen herself was an awesome scene. Still not quite sure why they're kind of travelling by themselves rather than with a fleet. Really not sure how the Romulans kind of like discovered where the ship was, unless when the Doctor wakes up the tracker is still there, or there's a second tracker on her. But I suppose that again means a bit of drama. You can't be the only ones who's found the synth homeworld and have weeks to wait and prepare for an enemy fleet to arrive. Was a little bit disappointed that Rios's backstory was kind of fitted into the whole quest. I would have liked Rios to have a meteor backstory. I mean, as I said before, I'm not a big fan of characters with internal conflict, but if you're going to have characters with internal conflict, you might as well make it some big conflict. What I would say is something that would be season 2's arc. I would give him trauma that would hint at, and then I'd make season 2 or season 3 more about him and tie it into another kind of like big plot series. But this one, it kind of tied up quite neatly. And the whole episode was a kind of answering episode. I mean, we are episode 8, we're 2 episodes away from the end of the series. It did kind of answer a lot of questions without really raising a whole lot of new ones. I'm still not entirely sure why the Romulans were trying to salvage the Borg cube, apart from for financial reasons. But now that they kind of know where the synth homeworld is, they don't need the cube anymore. But was the money's not required anymore, or they don't need anything because they've already got all the resources they're going to spend? Was it all just for this one individual? Was that why they were kind of like salvaging the cube? Were they helping the Borg become normal? It's confusing. It's not quite wrapped up in my mind. Maybe if I rewatch the series, I might find points in it that are more interesting, or points that clarify things that I've kind of missed. But no, on the whole, I'd say it's a solid 8 of an episode with some excellent scenes. Moved the story forward, got a little bit more Rossi was pretty much kind of in her element with the conspiracy stuff. It was quite nice to see all 5 holograms interacting directly. Definitely a strain for the actor, but it didn't seem quite as pointed to kind of dig that out when she could have just knocked on his door and said hi. Also, didn't the navigation holograms tell her it was Jana rather than Ian, the engineering hologram? That's just one of those little annoying things. I think that was the case. She heard the name from the navigation hologram. She didn't hear the name from the engineering hologram, but she referenced that the engineering hologram told her the name. A bit of an annoyance, that's all. And the doctor is like, oh no, I'm not going to kill anyone now, but I do think about suicide on a daily basis because I'm still so massively traumatized. I suppose next generation, that would be a mindset of like, yeah, we accept her, but in reality, I think she's going to be set up for betrayal later on. One of these situations where she's a gun to Picard or a gun to this Commander O or Commandant O, the Starfleet Intelligence Romulan double agent. So I don't know. She seemed it's a little too TNG in a non-TNG world. That kind of response. Yeah, I'm not going to kill anyone now. Yay! It's okay. No, but yeah, looking forward to episode 9. I plan to watch that before episode 10 on Friday, and try and get these podcasts out. But my hope has been restored a bit by this episode. I hope it's all going to be kind of like worth it. I'm not sure how they're going to end it, what they're going to discover on the kind of like the synth planet, but we do know there are male synths as well. So Data's got some sons as well as some daughters, and how many there are is also another question. Is it a whole race? And are they too late? Has the signal already been sent? But yeah, looking forward to episode 9.